I don't need, oh, that one. That was just, we just gave it. But you just told me this. Yeah. This one. Okay. So it is recording, right? Presumably. Okay. And then I need to make sure that. Yeah, that writes too. Everything seems to be hunky-dory. And then let me also record this. Okay. Can you hear me, guys? Okay. Very good. So this is CSE 574, Planning and Learning. I've been sending you mails saying, are you sure you really want to take this class? Apparently, I failed because some of you are still here. We'll see how that goes by next week. So I am Rao Kambhampati. This is my 34th year. 34th year. How many of you are younger than 34? So I've been here. So you can, instead of teaching this class, I can tell you how ASU used to be 34 years back. That would be fun, okay? But anyway, so this is, I've been here for quite a while, and I work in this area, planning, automated planning, and I generally work in AI. And so I am going to teach this class. Let's see if I can get this also to work. Yeah, this doesn't. Okay, I need to do this, but that's fine. Okay. So I am Rao, and one of the things that we will be doing is we will be doing everything regarding this class using class Piazza. Okay. I will send you the link. I'm still, basically the problem is that until next week, I really don't know which of you are going to be around. And so I'm just going to set up things like right after Wednesday for the Piazza, so that after Wednesday, I know it's an ad drop, so you're going to be here for a while. And then I will tell you everything about how you would be using Piazza for the class related communication. Before I get the Piazza done, if you need to get in touch with me, you can send me an email to rao@asu.edu. You guys can see this, right? This is big enough, okay? rao@asu.edu. And the other thing is that, oh yeah, I have a Twitter account, and I spend a whole bunch of time on that, mostly talking about AI and planning, and including this course maybe. So if you're interested, you can see what's going on there. There's going to be TAs and graders, but I will tell you the details next week. Okay. And then I have a bunch of my PhD students some of my students are taking this class, and some of the students are just hanging around, coming along to help me. So the people who are coming along to help me who are not taking the class, can you please stand up? So you guys know that they would also be helping me. They're all doing work in this area. They write papers, et cetera, et cetera. I won't ask the people who actually are working with me and taking the class to stand up, because you will start getting questions about that. Yeah, you can sit down. Thank you. Okay. And so these are basically kind of going to be involved anyway, in addition to whatever the TAs and graders for that I will be telling you about for the class. Okay. And then how many of you have clicked on the 574 link and actually looked at what is going to be done in this class? Okay. The rest of you, I don't know what the heck you're doing. I mean, essentially, you don't show up in the Arizona summer to a class somewhere without knowing what that class actually looks like. Why waste your time? You should just sit at home. So I did send multiple mails, except for the people who added this class in the last maybe 4 or 5 days. Everybody else would have gotten mails from me saying, where you can get the information about this class. And if you can't be bothered to click, at least you should ask ChatGPT, what do you think Rao does? And if you didn't even do that, I don't know what you're doing. Okay. But in general, this class thing, let me see if I can actually, okay. So it actually has the set of lectures that I did last year, no, I mean, actually fall 2022. So it's been 2 years since I taught this class. And before that, I taught this class in 2008. So actually, comparatively, it's much more recently that I taught this class in fall 2022. So we will be sort of, at least you can see the top three, the first 3 lectures. So we'll be doing something about introductory stuff on what planning is, et cetera, et cetera. And then starting the second class, which is next week, this is, as I kind of mentioned multiple times, this is not like an introductory graduate level course. This is meant to be a course where you do have background in intro to AI, or you're interested in picking up stuff, even if you don't have it, you're going to pick it up on the way. You have to do it on your own. And then I'll assume that you have the introductory AI background as I teach in CSE574. I gave you the link for that. And so in particular, if you know supervised learning, et cetera, supervised learning, unsupervised learning from machine learning, and you think that's all AI, no, that's not enough. Okay, that's very much important part of AI, but you also should know things like search, things like logic, things like constraint satisfaction. All of these are very important and very relevant to this course. If you don't know it, that's why I said when people ask me if we have like 475, which I believe is the machine learning for undergrads, if that is there, is that enough? And I said, well, actually not. Because that's part of it. But in fact, the other part is what you do in Intro to AI, which is basically problem-solving agents, search, logic, probabilistic networks, Bayesian networks, and all these things are relevant. Okay, so I actually prefer that you have background in Intro to AI. So you should look up 471 and see what parts you don't know. And then if you still want to hang around in the class, make sure that you actually follow at least the lectures there. Okay, so that's what I would do. I will assume that you know, unless you raise your hand and ask questions. Please do ask questions. If in fact you don't know some topic in the middle of the class, please do. And if you're asking lots and lots of questions, I wouldn't tell you here, but I will tell you separately that maybe you need to you probably don't have the background, but that's completely fine. Okay, so don't get intimidated into not asking questions because you're worried maybe this was done in 471, because even if you didn't do, even if you did do 471, you may have done it with somebody else, and everybody does slightly different coverage. Okay, so I assume that things that I've done you already are familiar with. Okay, so one of the things that we will be doing starting next class is you would be sent readings before the class, and you will be reading those readings. And unlike the undergraduate courses or even the other grad courses where they just say read and you don't read and you just show up and hope that things will be fine, you will be required to write a summary review of what you have read before coming to the class. This is going to be part of your grade. Okay, I'm not teaching this to give you grades. I know that you need grades, but I'm not teaching this to give you grades. I'm teaching it because you think you're interested in this topic. And one way you show that you're interested is actually read before coming to the class and have written the reviews. This is what we did last time, and it worked quite well. So that's what you would be doing. And you will be posting your summaries on Piazza itself. I will tell you how to do it by next week. okay? But this is going to be a thing for this class. That's like a required thing. And then when we come to the class, I'll first several minutes, depending on however long it takes, I would ask you if you have any questions from what you have read. And then I would be answering those questions, okay? So if you did not read, you basically will be like, in a la la land, because you don't know what the discussion is, essentially. So this is supposed to be for a graduate level class for people who are kind of interested in doing research in these directions, okay? Even if they're not actually doing research like right away, that's what I want you to get to, okay? So there are people here who are PhD students. Can you please raise your hands? Okay. Those guys hopefully will enjoy this course, because that's actually, it's meant for PhD students should be able to do research, okay? There are people here who are from bachelor's, BS, maybe 4+1 kind of a thing. Can you please raise your hands? Those people are overly enthusiastic about AI and they might enjoy it, okay? But you have to spend time, essentially. I've had it last year. I had people from 471 Intro to AI that I taught, took this class. They enjoyed it. And in fact, I had great time having them in the class. In that particular case, actually, I knew those students because they took my honors Intro AI class. And so it was actually very helpful to have them. Is there anybody here who has taken a class with me before? What's your name? Jonathan? So you have done, which one did you do? Oh, okay. Is there anybody else from that? You did that? Wow. Okay. So how have you been? Like you actually, you survived the pandemic. So in pandemic time on fall 2020, I have decided, since I wasn't teaching any course, I've decided I'll teach a invitation to AI seminar course. Only I think it's an honor seminar course, and these people who just showed up, except for a few people who may have been there for a longer time, most of them were like, freshmen. They just joined ASU, and I was essentially kind of trying to teach them why AI as a subject is interesting, okay? It wasn't a full-on regular course, but, actually we had I think I had fun, and it was all in Zoom land. So I was sitting in my Zoom, and I do remember that some of you guys would be outside with the Zoom in the background by, as fall continues. I know if those of you are new to ASU, new to Tempe, things do get better in terms of temperature. After October, things become nice. By December, you would need like thick parkas. At least that's what I want to make up. But anyway, so people used to sit around and listen to the classes. And so what's your name? Grishma, and you are Jonathan. Okay, there you go. So you guys actually were in the same class at that time, I guess. That's nice to have. And anybody else who has taken any of the classes I've taught? What's your name? Yes. And what did you do in the 571? Okay, that's fine. And then great. 571. Okay. What's your name? 571. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. 571. Oh, so there are people who have taken 571, and there are people who have taken this fall invitation to AI. They kind of know what to expect in general, the kind of courses I teach. Of course, the courses are quite different. I do this because I like it, not because ASU pays me. Okay, in the sense that ASU pays me, but I can do something else for ASU in terms of what they're paying me. And you can do whatever other things you want to do. But I assume that if you sign up for this class this semester, on Fridays, you are like really, actually not just Fridays, the whole semester you're invested in understanding what's going on in this class. I would do that, and I hope you would do that too. So anyway, so the undergrads basically would probably enjoy it. And then there's like a large number of master's students, of which there are some masters in robotics and automation systems. Can you raise your hands, please? Okay. You might enjoy the course too, because essentially you guys went up for like, sort of some of you are probably doing thesis-oriented masters, et cetera. And in general, I have found that that particular program seems to attract people who are somewhat interested in research, okay? And then there are a whole bunch of people who are in masters in computer science, MCS CSE. Can you please raise your hands? The ones who are not 4+1, but who are just basically masters in computer science. Okay. You may or may not like this course, honestly. I understand there's like more important things to do, such as lead code interview preparation, right? And this is a wasted time when you're stuck here on Fridays. You don't have time to prepare for lead code interviews. I'm just serious, okay? This is more research-oriented stuff. So some of you, I don't know you personally, but I'm just saying based on what I have seen for MCS students, they have very different interest in why they're taking courses. So you may or may not care for it. So hopefully you should spend some time, figure out what happened last week and make a decision by next week. Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
Take the 471 course. So currently wise for me like.
No, that's what I said to everybody. I am not going to, people who ask me, I said, I expect that you have intro to AI background. Okay. I am not going to de-enroll anybody. I'm not going to do that. Okay. You decide to stay, you are taking the responsibility of making sure that things that are connected to 471 that I'm assuming you actually know. I understand that people who may have taken 471 and slept through their class are, very carefully worked on other things using their laptops, which, by the way, is something that doesn't work in this class. If you are using laptops, you're doing it for this class. Otherwise, I will specifically ask you questions. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you're using laptops, if you're not actually following what's going on in this class, but doing something else afterwards, such as lead code interviews, I would specifically ask you questions until you stop doing something else. No, I'm not using laptop, you notice. I'm looking at you guys, right? So I expect undivided attention. I will give you undivided attention. Okay, that's just the way. I'm like very serious about this. I know that it's considered fashionable to say you don't even need to come to the class. No, you better come to the class. If you don't plan to come to the class, don't take this class. Seriously, we will take attendance. So the first class we won't, but we will take attendance. And if you don't show up, that is actually a great way of signaling that you have no interest. Okay, please understand that. I am saying this shouldn't have to be said, but many people think, say that you don't even have to show up for the class. So I'm just saying, I expect people to come to the class. I expect people to spend time engaging with the class. You can yell at me if I'm not making sense to you. Okay. But on the other hand, if you are in your own la la land watching some YouTube videos, that's not going to work. Okay. So MCS and then the MS thesis. Is there anybody who's actually doing MS thesis? Yeah, the poor lone people. Okay. You will enjoy it because you've already given up and started doing research. And so you will enjoy this. So I'm just saying that people interested in understanding what's going on and trying to do research in the area, or at least even if they're not doing it, but they're actually seriously trying to understand where the state of the art is and how you can actually, further it, they are likely to enjoy it. Okay. Others, not so much. This is just, I'm saying this because I know how I teach. I know how I teach this class. I'm just telling you that that's likely to be the case. And so if you are a lot more interested in generally getting a course which has a whole bunch of exams and with answers on the course hero, this is not that. Okay. And so you are likely to wind up learning something if you spend time, but otherwise that's going to be the case. Okay. What's planning? Okay. So is there any questions before I go forward? Okay. So this one has planning and learning. So I'm going to start asking people, what did you think planning was when you signed up for this course? Who wants to say something? I mean, I assume that everybody thinks they know learning, but what is planning? That's one word they may not have heard of. If you're taking 571, you don't count because you kind of have an idea. Anybody? Yes. What? What does that mean? But why is that connected? What that's planning, that is you planning what the agent is going to have access to. That's what you're saying. But what is from the agent's perspective, what is the plan? What is planning? Yes. So instructions. So if you give the instructions already, then it's instruction following. That's one type. So that means the instructions are the plan that you are asking the agent to follow. So for example, if you are trying to cook something, you might have a recipe for the, for how to cook it. And then you read that recipe and try to follow the instructions. Or how many of you heard of WikiHow? Which is there. So if you don't know a specific thing, you go to WikiHow, it tells you a bunch of instructions and you do it. Okay. By the way, that poor guy, unless you wanted to sit there by design, you should come and sit in the front somewhere, and there are lots and lots of seats here. Okay, so that's instruction following. That is connected to planning. What else is planning? Yes. How to approach a task, that is? Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the point is that's like a very general. There may be meta planning involved. Give me some very simple idea of planning. Have you guys ever done planning in your life? Forget about what AI people want to do. Do you have plans? Okay. Hey, what's your name? What's your plan? Well, again, this is exactly what I'm saying. Don't spend time looking at cell phone when I'm teaching. Then I will ask you a question. The great way to get me to ask you a question is to show that you're not paying attention. Then I'll make sure until you leave the class that I will ask you questions, okay? So somebody who actually thinks they're doing planning in their life, what do they do? I mean, this stuff about making data up for some program or how to approach a project, this is all like you are giving up on life. You think the only thing that's left is taking software engineering jobs, right? Right. But before that, you're a human. You live. So how you make plans? What do you say when you say you made a plan? Give me some examples of plans you make. Yes. Okay. That is the to-do list. Okay. So that's an interesting thing. The to-do list is the list of things that need to be done. Okay. Which is different from how to do them. Planning a vacation. Who is saying this? Okay, yeah, we all need one. Planning a vacation is a planning task, right? And what is involved, like, for example, you have to decide where you want to go, and that's like an open-ended thing. And then you have to decide, how do you go there? How do you stay there? What are you going to do there? That's all. Sort of, you have a plan for vacation now. That's a reasonable plan, for example, okay? You guys understand that, as against the software engineering gobbledygook some of you are telling me, where nobody knows what you're talking about. You also yourself probably don't know what you're talking about, right? So let's talk about things that make sense to all of us. So that's a planning problem. What else is a planning problem? But that's following the recipe. So the difference between that lady and the recipe people is recipe people basically decided, I'm just going to open a random page, or maybe I will make this following dish and somebody else knows how to make this dish, and I just follow their instructions, okay? Whereas the other person is basically saying they're going to decide where they're going to vacation. They're going to decide what are the steps they're going to do. I'm coming there, okay? So that's like a difference. Again, I'm not saying these are all connected to planning. One is plan following. The other is planning. That means plan synthesis. Plan synthesis. Okay. Coming to the class is like basically, you know that you would be here, like, for example, there are like different levels of planning. First of all, you somehow have like a big meta plan about what you want to do with your life. And then taking this course became some kind of a step to it. And then there is also a question of, I have this step, I'm going to come to this class. How do I come? Where is this class? How do I find a path to, what specific roads do I take to come here, etc. That's all planning. Yes. Sir. What? Making a recipe is very much a plan. Following somebody else's recipe isn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? So plan synthesis, most of our, in fact, it is actually a very, very interesting point, which is one of the things that we'll be doing in this class, and I'll get to it in a minute too, is there is AI pre-ChatGPT, and there is AI post-ChatGPT, right? In the sense, LLMs, large language models. So one interesting thing that we will be discussing in the background, that's like the elephant in the room, is what is planning and what do these kinds of systems do? Okay. One thing large language models, we'll repeat this as we go on, they can do is they can approximately retrieve somebody else's recipe for making creme brulee. Approximately retrieve, because they've been trained on the internet's data. Okay. On the other hand, this lady might want to actually play with various ingredients and figure out the right way to make creme brulee. That's plan synthesis. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're following somebody else's recipe, hopefully they have figured out, all the bad things that can go wrong and made sure that if you follow their recipe, maybe it will taste okay. If you are trying things yourself, then you need to make sure that you are actually making steps in such a way that the entire thing doesn't get spoiled when you're cooking, right? So plan synthesis is harder than taking somebody else's plan. What if you actually made the plan yourself? If she actually figured out the great way to make creme brulee, right? I don't know why I'm talking about creme brulee, because I think the other day there was creme brulee in the lab. I actually am not a creme brulee person, but I'm much more of a dosa person. That's a different story. But if she made the great creme brulee recipe, and next week she wants to make creme brulee again, she's not going to restart from scratch and try to figure out how to come up with it. She just has written this recipe herself that she made down somewhere, and she's going to follow it. Do you see what I'm saying? So the plan synthesis part, once she synthesized it, she might very well use it many, many times later on. The difference between that and what happens in ChatGPT kind of a thing is that it is actually not necessarily going to make a plan. It's just, if you are in WikiHow, you're just taking somebody else's plan. You're just retrieving the plan. So retrieving versus making the plan is going to be two very different things. They're connected to planning, but they're different. Okay, yes. That's what this course is about. And that's what also life is about. That's a whole different story. So anybody can make a plan up, right? The question is it actually going to work? How do you know that it's going to work? Okay, and that's going to be a very important consideration in generating plans and so on. Yes. Yeah, you wanted to say?
Is trial and error part of planning, or is that like
So first of all, how you generate, there are like two very interesting, different questions in what you said. By the way, what we are doing is we jumped into the pool, whether you liked it or not, and we're trying to swim. Okay, because I'm trying to make sense of planning in ways that will become clearer and clearer as the semester goes on. But I know where we are going, so I can actually give you answers, even though you don't know what you're asking yet. Okay, so in your question, essentially, how is the plan generated? Oftentimes, coming up with a plan is either involves retrieving it, that is somebody else made the plan, you're just retrieving it, or you're putting a plan together. Putting a plan together normally involves some kind of a search. AI is full of search under different names. Okay, but it's going to involve search. So you are essentially going to try out various alternatives and pick the one that seems to work well. And the interesting thing is, of course, try to use the search in such a way that it's going to be efficient, hopefully. She doesn't want to spend her entire weekend trying to come up with the creme brulee recipe. She might want to come up with like something that's reasonably fast. And so she's going to use her common sense about how cooking works to kind of reduce trying very bad recipes that will taste horrible. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is always going to be search involved. Okay. Yes. That's the second version of answering your question that he brought up, which is, if I have plans for making X and Y and Z, can I somehow put them together to make X, Y, Z? Or more importantly, if I have a plan for making, let's say, a salad, can I customize making the salad? I say this because I'm thinking, I cook, by the way, I cook. I mean, better or worse, I eat, my wife eats what I cook. So I find it very silly for people who think they are cooking when they basically take, for example, somebody's, what are these Blue Apron, et cetera, where they'll give you all the ingredients and they tell you what the steps you are supposed to do. And then you feel good about it, that at least I did something. In fact, the worst version of that is, I remember this advertisement where these two people are there and they're saying, we're going to make dinner today, and then we're going to make salad. What particular dressing should we use? That's the creative stuff. Okay. Yeah, it's creative, but there can be better interesting things you can do in terms of making actual interesting things. So one point is customizing recipes is kind of what's called case-based planning, essentially. So you take a recipe and you customize it such that it's your recipe. Like, for example, you sprinkle some saffron on it. And lots of people think that if you sprinkle saffron, things become better. Okay. And so you just feel as if it's my recipe, right? I mean, I got it from Safeway, but then I put saffron on it, so it's my recipe, right? That's basically a way of saying it's somewhere between retrieving and generating from scratch. We do that. By the way, we're talking about cooking, but these things make sense for lots of any kind of a planning. That's true also of vacation planning that somebody was interested in. I want to have a vacation, but I'm too lazy to figure out, what places should I go to. I'll go randomly to some popular vacations place, pick one vacation and customize it to myself. So you've done something. You're not just following somebody else's complete vacation, but you're kind of improving something. The interesting question is, one of the interesting questions that you need to think about is, if you are customizing a plan or taking two plans and slapping them together, will any arbitrary way of slapping them together or any arbitrary way of customizing them, are they going to work? For example, it turns out that as bad as Safeway pre-made food is, you can make it worse. Right? You bring it home and you say, I'm going to improve this, customize it. Here is like a beaker full of salt, I'll pour it on top. Definitely it'll be much worse than before. Do you see what I'm saying? You customized it, but it's now actually worse than what Safeway sold you. Okay. So in general, how did you know that you are not supposed to add salt? Because you do have some domain knowledge about cooking. You know that, too much salt is going to just kill the taste. You see what I'm saying? If you didn't, you will try it out and then figure out that, this is next time around, I should remember. So the point that I'm trying to make is, even in the case of these sort of customization of plans, you will wind up needing some understanding of the domain, and some understanding of how things interact, the steps that you're doing in the plan going to interact. And if not, you're likely to customize them in such a way that it'll be worse than what you have retrieved. And this is all going to be extremely important when you try to understand planning in the context of LLMs, because they are essentially approximately retrieving stuff. And they don't necessarily make sure that they're going to be correct. And so if you actually call their bluff, then you will find that most of the plans they make may not actually work, if you try to execute them. Okay. So anybody else has anything else? Yes. You will not know. This, by the way, is a $1 million question. This is going to be very relevant in the age of large language models, right? If you go to an interview, they ask you a question. You have seen this question because, after all, you spent your lifetime trying to prepare for these interviews. Every possible question has been seen because you're senior.